A number of people I know are interested in weight loss or weight maintenance. And several times throughout today's conversation, we've come back to this issue of satiety signals, whether or not they're brain-based, body-based, or both. Not wanting to eat more is a great way to maintain or lose weight because you simply don't want to. I heard you mention earlier that protein and maybe specific types of protein or sources of protein may provide better satiety signals than other macronutrients. Could you briefly talk about how macronutrients, including protein, but also carbohydrates and fats, impact satiety? And from the standpoint of somebody who, for instance, would like to, quote unquote, lose a few pounds, right? Probably would be happy to gain a little bit of lean body mass, provided it was in a particular location on their body. That seems to be a thing now, directed hypertrophy, if you will. And how much they should focus on protein as a core component of creating this diet. Assuming everything else is being done correctly, they're going to hit the right number of calories relative to their output, NEAT, et cetera. How should we think about protein and satiety signals? And are animal sources of protein indeed more bioavailable? That's a tricky word. For sake of muscle building, but also for sake of somebody who just would like to lose body fat. They don't want to lose muscle and they'd like to bring their weight down a few pounds.
So a lot of things
more.
Yeah, a lot of things to unpack there. Of the macronutrients, protein is definitely the biggest lever that you can pull, because even if, it doesn't take a ton of protein to get a lot of the muscle building benefits. I mean, I think the benefits really start to plateau out around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. There's some evidence that maybe even up to like 2.4 or 2.8 grams per kilo may give like a little bit more benefit. I think it probably looks something like an asymptote in terms of a curve where as you put more into the system, you always get a little bit more, but it just gets to the point where it's so infinitesimally small benefit that it's, for all intensive purposes, no benefit.
But you mentioned 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Would you consider that a threshold that most people should try and achieve daily?
I see very few downsides to hitting that. I know some people, and this is going to get into a separate conversation, but I know some people will say, well, I don't want to stimulate mTOR because that's going to make me die early. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is if you look at, there's kind of this thought process out there that if you're stimulating mTOR, that protein is going to make you die early. And first off, we have very little human outcome data to support that claim. And the second thing is, if you look at any macronutrient isolation, I can make a mechanistic argument that it's going to kill you. So fat, if you take in fat, it decreases flow-mediated dilation. Flow-mediated dilation is important for heart health in the short term. Carbohydrates stimulate insulin. Insulin, pro-inflammatory and, all these other things. And so I can make an argument for any single macronutrient to be negative for longevity. I really want people, this is something that even scientists get wrong. They look at an acute response of something and assume that that is going to relate to long-term outcomes and signaling. So let's just take exercise, for example. If you didn't know anything about exercise and I said to you, Andrew, I'm going to do something that's going to make your heart rate go up, your blood pressure go up, your inflammatory markers go up, your reactive oxygen species increase, you're going to say, and it's going to damage your muscles, you're going to say, I'm not doing that. That sounds horrible, but it does all those things in the short term. But what is the long-term effect of exercise? You actually get healthier. All those things improve. Now, I'm not saying that, protein is a longevity hack or anything like that. But what I'm saying is I think some of the arguments out there based on mechanistic, this increases mTOR, therefore we don't want to do it. I think it is a much more complicated argument than just that. So there's that. So protein is the biggest lever. I would shoot for 1.6, grams per kilogram. If you can do more, great. There doesn't seem to be really downsides to it, even like up to very high levels of protein. Jose Antonio did a study that was a year-long randomized control trial. And again, it's just 1 year, but they were looking at all sorts of different biomarkers. And basically, even up to like 4 grams per kilogram of protein, they couldn't really find any negative health outcomes from it. Other than people were just so satiated, they ended up eating less calories. So protein is a big lever because one, it has a higher thermic effect of food. So you're getting a little bit more calorie burn per day, even though it's not a ton because TEF is a pretty small percentage of your overall energy expenditure, but still a benefit. You're getting the effects on lean body mass. It's going to, if you're in a diet, it's going to help preserve lean body mass. If you're at maintenance, it's going to help build or preserve lean body mass. And if you're in a surplus, it's going to help build or preserve lean body mass. Then you get the effects on appetite. So now I want to be careful because appetite effects tend to be very specific to individual foods, right? So you can take a high protein food and make it not very satiating. So take, for example, like a really tasty protein bar, which, back when we were getting into this, no such thing existed. Now you have protein bars that actually take pretty darn good. But if you eat one of them, I mean, are you really satiated? I don't really feel satiated after a protein bar.
That's my pre-meal snack.
Right. So why? Because, I mean, it's processed, refined, and made to be very palatable, okay? But take something like a 200-gram chicken breast, very satiating, right? And that's why when people say, well, carbohydrates aren't very satiating. It depends on the carbohydrate. I mean, when you look at the satiety index, a plain baked potato is about as satiating as it gets.
Yeah, if I eat a bowl of oatmeal, I feel pretty good afterword.
Yeah,
for a while, right? I mean, I'll eat that along with some other things, but I completely agree. So you're saying that the form that it comes in, maybe even how much chewing is required, how good it smells, that your psychological associations. Because to me, a steak is an incredible meal. Like I mean, if I had to pick one food that I could eat, even though I'm not pure carnivore, for the rest of my life, it would be that, because I think it would get me where I need to go. And then I'd probably have to sneak some fiber, but it's an excellent point.